news into CBS Sports HQ. The Rams have announced they have agreed to a contract extension with Matthew Stafford. The deal is for 1 year and $55 million. That, according to ESPN. The reigning NFL MVP had 1 year left on his deal, so he's now locked up in Los Angeles through the 2027 season. Stafford, who turned 38 in February, threw for a career-high 4,707 yards, 46 touchdowns last year, leading the Rams to the NFC Championship game. And to break it all down, let's bring in CBS Sports NFL analyst Emory Hunt. Emory, your reaction to the Rams extending Stafford?
Must be nice to live in LA with all that money, man. I love that for Stafford. He's coming off the MVP season, really great year, almost got to the Super Bowl. But what this does for him, it gives him that security and kind of smooths things out for him in terms of, hey, we drafted a quarterback, your eventual replacement in round one, but here's an extra year on your contract. Here's an extra $55 million. And I'm pretty sure Matthew Stafford is smiling from ear to ear.
Yeah, I like that $55 million, too. All right, you mentioned his replacement. So what does that mean for the number 13 pick in the draft, Ty Simpson?
Business as usual for Ty Simpson. He had to buy his time at Alabama before he got on the field last year for the first time in 3 seasons or 4 seasons. And then now he gets to go to the NFL and gets to go into a situation where you want to be behind a guy like Matthew Stafford. You also want to be coached by a Sean McVay, playing in a Sean McVay-led offense for an organization like the Rams to do a great job of surrounding their quarterback with superior talent on both sides of the ball to make your job that much easier. So if you're Ty Simpson, you're in the catbird seat. You can learn from Matt Stafford, take from him whatever he's willing to give to you. You learn the system of Sean McVay, so when you do step on the field, it'll go a lot better than it did at Alabama. You could have that sustained success as opposed to what you saw at Bama last year in the first part of the season, juxtaposed to the latter part.
All right, Emory, so another notable deal was inked on Thursday. How about the Giants giving general manager Joe Schoen a multi-year contract extension? That's according to our Jonathan Jones. Schoen has been the Giants general manager since 2022. New head coach John Harbaugh doesn't report to Schoen, instead reporting directly to ownership, a structure that Harbaugh said was not really that important. So, Emory, your thoughts on the Giants further committing to this Harbaugh-Schoen relationship?
Firstly, shout out to the Giants PR staff dropping this news right before the Knicks playoff game, because that is savvy right there. Now people will focus on this later as opposed to the Knicks going on right now. So that's savvy move by the PR staff. Secondly, and most importantly, I think this is good for the Giants. If we look at what Joe Schoen did this offseason and what he did in the NFL draft, honestly, we can go back to last offseason and last year's draft as well. He's stacking 2 successful classes, in my opinion. And if you're John Harbaugh, you don't directly report to Joe Schoen, you report to the owner. At the end of the day, as long as Joe Schoen does his job, I think that gives Joe Schoen the autonomy to continue to stockpile talent and give the coach the talent that he needs to have success. And if you're Harbaugh, you're not beholden to them moving off of a GM, because you know what happens when a GM comes in, they want to bring in their guy. But if you don't report to that guy, you report to the owner. Both of you guys are sitting in good spots. So I like this for both John Harbaugh. I love it for Joe Schoen because he's coming off of back-to-back really good offseason in terms of both free agency and the NFL draft.
You nailed it. That was a brilliant PR move. All right, so we talked about Ty Simpson. We got to talk about the first pick. Raiders coach Clint Kubiak says Fernando Mendoza has not disappointed and is, quote, working his tail off. On Wednesday, Cousins got first-team reps and is expected to start the season as QB1. But we've seen this play out in Atlanta with Cousins and Penix. How do you expect the QB situation to play out in Vegas this season?
This is slowly walking Mendoza into the starting lineup. This is crawl, walk, run. We're going to see Mendoza, I believe, by week 1 of the NFL season. What you're hearing coming out of Raiders camp is a guy that has a high floor, which is the entire reason why you took him first overall anyway, because he had a high floor already. He won the Heisman Trophy. You're lauding him for his football IQ and ability to make the right decision and play well in critical situations. Then what are we even talking about Kirk Cousins for? Why even go sign Kirk Cousins? So I think they're seeing real time that this dude can actually play and play well enough to where this team, where he won't be a liability, You stockpile weapons around him. You improve the offensive line. The defense looks significantly better. He'll have a better chance to hit the ground running than Geno Smith did last year behind that Raiders offensive line because now it's better. So I expect him to be better than Kirk Cousins because he is already better than Cousins at this juncture of his career. And what he has that Cousins doesn't have in his bag, athleticism. So even if things get tight around him in the pocket, he can escape out and get those cheap first down yards as opposed to yielding a sack, conceding a sack that Cousins will do. I expect Cousins to go out there and compete, but at the end of the day, I look for them to start Fernando Mendoza week 1.
All right, well, there's no one better than you. Emory Hunt, thanks so much for your insight.
Man, they did a lot in their wide receiver room in the offseason, and more to come most likely. They traded up for Mekhi Lemon. They went out, they traded for Dontavian Wicks. They brought in Hollywood Brown. They brought in Elijah Moore. And, yeah, they're probably going to ship A.J. Brown out of town potentially to the New England Patriots. So we want to bring in Damian Harris as we take a full look at the upcoming schedule for the Philadelphia Eagles, who have won back-to-back NFC East championships. First team to do that in over a couple of decades. But Damian, when you look at the wide receiver room, assuming that they trade A.J. Brown, the guys that they brought in, do you expect that wide receiver room to be better, worse, or the same as last year?
Well, Chris, I think that your hope is with a guy like Mekhi Lemon that you drafted early in the first round. That's a guy that has the most potential out of everybody on that list, right? That's a guy, he's fresh, he's coming out of college, he was explosive at USC. He's kind of what you see is what you get, and you know what you're going to get. But some of those other guys, Hollywood Brown, Elijah Moore, like these are names that we've heard around the league for quite some time, but that name hasn't, neither of those names have been attached to impact or helping a team win, quite frankly, which is the most important thing in the game of football, especially the National Football League. But what I will say is looking at this trade scenario with A.J. Brown and what potentially might happen, right? Everybody wants to talk about, well, if the Eagles don't have A.J. Brown, what are they going to do? Okay, well, the Eagles are going out here and signing all these guys. They drafted Mekhi Lemon. Okay, how are they going to be? We're missing the point. They've still got a guy on their roster that plays wide receiver by the name of Devontae Smith. Let me say it again for the people who aren't hearing me. Devontae Smith. And you know what this reminds me of, Chris Hassel? This reminds me of a young Devontae Smith at Alabama. And there was guys by the name of Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, the list goes on and on and on. And people say, well, what the hell is going to happen when those guys leave? And what did Devontae Smith happen to do? Oh, he just happened to win the Heisman. He caught for 2,000 yards, caught for over 20 touchdowns. He was the guy. So all of that to say, a lot of people don't think Devontae Smith is a true wide receiver one in the National Football League. Well, guess what? They said the same damn thing at Alabama. He walked out with a national championship. He walked out with a Heisman Trophy. I think Devontae can have the same type of impact and the same type of production jump if A.J. Brown leaves as well, and he's thrusted in that wide receiver one role.
All right, well, let's go through the schedule. They have an over-under win total of 10.5. They have to play the NFC West, the AFC South. They also have one-offs against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's interesting when you look at the schedule. They do have a London game in there. Only 7 true road games. So it does kind of line up in their favor a little bit compared to a bunch of the other teams. But let's start things off in division against a Commanders team that took a big step down last season. We expect might take a step back up this season. What do you think? That game is in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely expect the Commanders to come back this year better than what we saw last year. We want to see Jaden Daniels healthy. We want to see a faster defense from this Washington Commanders team, a younger defense. But let's face it, I think even if they do take a step in the right direction, I think Philadelphia is just beat to build this team. I mean, they play them. They're very familiar with them. You've got Jalen Hurts. You've got Saquon Barkley. Again, Devontae Smith. You've got a lot of your guys back on defense. You know, the overarching theme for the Eagles this season, I know we're just on week 1, Chris, but you have the pieces at quarterback, receiver, running back on defense, and a lot of those guys were there last year as well. It's just, are they going to fit the billing this year? But in terms of starting off week 1, I think the guys show up ready to play. I think they knock off the Commanders.
All right, so we'll put a W right next to that W logo of the Commanders as they head to Tennessee for week 2 in a game that they'll obviously be favored in.
Hey, man, listen, I mean, I love Cam Ward. I love Carnell Tate. I love the Rob Saleh hiring, but I don't think that that's enough to beat a Philadelphia Eagles team, even on their worst day, because let's face it, Tennessee's got a lot of problems. They've got a lot of bright spots and a lot of areas that you can look to and have confidence in the future, but they're not there yet. They're not there for a team that's been to an NFC championship game the past couple years, won a Super Bowl. The experience that they have, the talent that the Eagles have, I think it's too much for the Titans.
Okay, so 2-0 heading to Chicago for a Monday night. I feel like this is a game that the Eagles might have circled because it was last year, Black Friday in Philadelphia. The Bears ran all over them in that one. This is in Chicago, though, on Monday night.
And that's why everybody would want me to pick the Bears to win. But if I know anything about Jalen Hurts, it's if you leave a bad taste in his mouth, he remembers it and he makes it personal. You know, you hear those stories about how he has that Michael Jordan-esque kind of mentality of it doesn't take anything hardly to get him motivated. And he remembers that game in Chicago last year. I think he'll have the team motivated and ready. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if he grabbed his back by the name of Saquon Barkley and said, you remember what they did to us last year? Now let's turn around and go do it to them. I like the Eagles to win this one.
Wow, okay, so that starts off a really tough stretch, but they're 3-0. But this is at Chicago, home against the Rams, and then in England against a Jaguars team that's expected to be really good again. But how about week 4 here, 3-0 against a team that is favored to win the Super Bowl at this point, the LA Rams?
Yeah, no, I definitely like the Rams in this matchup because kind of like I said earlier, those defensive pieces that they had last year, Jalen Carter, Zach Bond, I think he took a step back last year. Cooper DeJean, we didn't hear his name called enough. Then you lose a guy like Will Blankenship in the back. I mean, I think that defensively, they just can't keep up with the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, the NFL has basically branded them as the NFL's team. That is the LA Rams. Why do you think they have so many primetime games? I think it's 4 to start the first 5 games of the season. I mean, they're favored to win the Super Bowl for a reason. They're a damn good football team. Matthew Stafford's coming off of an MVP season. Sean McVay seems like he's in peak coaching form already, and we haven't even watched a down of NFL football yet. I like the Rams to win this matchup.
All right, so out of their first loss, now having to go across the pond to London and play the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one because you lose. This is going to be a big-time matchup in week 4 between the Eagles and the Rams. It's going to be highly marketed. Everybody's going to be watching. And then if you lose that game, then you've got to take the emotional baggage all the way across the pond to London, which, by the way, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think they do a lot of business in London. I think that they play in London quite often. So I think that the time change, the travel, I think that their team, the Jacksonville organization, is better suited for that. And this Jacksonville team, they've got to be motivated by what they were able to do and accomplish last year and think that they were just a couple plays away from maybe advancing further in the playoffs. So I like the Jacksonville Jaguars to knock off the Eagles in London.
Wow, okay, back-to-back losses for the Rams in this tough stretch here, now coming home to face the Carolina Panthers in week 6, Damian.
Yeah, and see, this is where they take out a little bit of that midseason, early to midseason frustration, right? You start out 3-0, then you drop 2 to 2 really good football teams. You just traveled back from London. Then you get back home, you get back to your schedule, and then you look and you see you've got the Panthers. By no stretch of the imagination do you just assume that you're going to whoop up on the Panthers, but that's a team on your schedule where you're like, we know we've got better players. We believe we've got better coaches. We're pissed off. We're hungry because we're sitting here at 3-2 when we could potentially be 5-0. Let's take our frustration out on the Carolina Panthers. Let's get after Bryce Young. Let's really let Saquon loose in this game. Let all of our players eat. All of our stars get theirs. And I think they take care of business against Carolina.
Okay, and that sends them into a stretch of 3 straight in the division, beginning with their first matchup with the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football in Philadelphia, Week 7.
I like the Cowboys to win this matchup. And don't tell our resident Haley Sutton, don't tell her that because she'll be jumping and doing cartwheels all over the damn studio. But I like the Cowboys, man. I think that our own Brian McFadden, he hit the nail on the head when he talked about how deadly and explosive this Dallas Cowboys offense can be. And I just think if you go back to the start of last season, right, the first time the Cowboys and the Eagles played, all you can think about is those crucial drops by CeeDee Lamb and how the outcome of the game could have been different had he made some of those catches. Again, another guy that don't need no motivation, a guy that's been working all offseason to erase the taste of his mouth of dropping 4 balls against our division rival. I think CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, the Cowboys, I think they take care of business in a fashion that we might not even expect. I don't even think it'll just be the offensive side of the ball that gets off for the Dallas Cowboys. Expect the defense to give Philly some problems as well.
And that'll send them into their first rematch of the season. You haven't beaten Washington in week 1. How about the return game in D.C. week 8?
I mean, I still like Philly because, again, I just think that this is a better roster. I think they're better coached. I just think that they have pieces organizationally on top of experience, which we don't talk enough about how well that suits you year in and year out. A guy like Jalen Hurts, who's played in the biggest games, been to the Super Bowls, been to the NFC Championship, Saquon Barkley, just like that late postseason experience that they have. They're just a better team than the Washington Commanders right now. So I think they'll beat them twice.
A sweep of the Commanders going into their first game against the Giants.
You know, the Giants are the most interesting team in the National Football League to me right now because you go out and you get Harbaugh, and all of a sudden this feels like a different organization already, right? Like, I feel like we're looking at Jackson Dart differently. We're looking at what Cam Scadaboo can be like when he gets back healthy differently. This defense, the front seven, losing Dexter Lawrence is definitely going to, I think, be a bigger hole in this defense than we may expect because they've got all those other pass rushers, and people don't really think about the interior part of the defense. But I think that Dexter Lawrence trade might hurt them just a little bit. But I think this is going to be a great litmus test for both teams, to be quite honest with you, because I think the New York Giants will be well coached. I think they'll play good situational football. I think they'll play complementary football. So even if they're not as talented as the Eagles, I think competitively they'll make things hard and make things challenging with the style of football that they play. But I still like the Eagles just because I think they have a better roster, and I think that they've got players in games like this when it's on the line. You still got guys that can go and make plays when plays need to be made.
Okay, so that's 6-3 going into the bye week in week 10, coming out of that with the Pittsburgh Steelers in Philadelphia in this meeting of Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Well, I like the Eagles to win this game, and it's because regardless of the fact that Aaron Rodgers is coming back to play quarterback in Pittsburgh, I still think Pittsburgh has a quarterback problem. I don't know if I'm the only one that's willing to say this, Chris Hassel, but Aaron Rodgers didn't really look that good last year. He definitely showed spurts of, okay, the arm is still there. Everything else around it is kind of breaking down and slowing down. Father Time is winning. But, you know, the arm is still there. We saw that in glimpses, Chris Hassel. We saw that in glimpses. It wasn't a full package of that. This wasn't a typical Aaron Rodgers season by any stretch of the imagination. Now, that's okay because he's a year away from retirement. But at the end of the day, I still think Pittsburgh has a quarterback problem that we might not even see Aaron Rodgers play the full season, especially if the season isn't going how he planned it. Notice how I said he, not the Steelers, not the organization. If it's not going the way that Aaron Rodgers wants it to go, I'm not sure he'll play the whole season. And then you've got two young guys in Will Howard and Drew Aller, who we just quite frankly haven't seen anything of at the National Football League.
All right, so second 3-game winning streak of the season for the Eagles. Heading into the rematch against the Cowboys, this is the Thanksgiving afternoon game in Dallas.
Give me Dallas to sweep the Eagles this season. Just go ahead and give it to me. I like Dallas to win the division. I think they're a better team than the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think that they've been on the heels for a while, just nipping at the heels, trying to get them. And I think this is the year the Cowboys finally cement themselves as the leader of this division.
Okay, so there's that 3-game losing streak, a winning streak again ending. And now you go to this last stretch of the season on the far right here, beginning with a game in Arizona against a Cardinals team that's completely rebuilding.
Yeah, completely rebuilding. They're not there yet, if we're being completely honest. I think we'll be excited to watch how Jeremiah Love and Marvin Harrison Jr. play against this defense. But at the end of the day, this is Philly's game to lose. They're the better team. They have more continuity in what they're doing. The pieces have been there together a little bit longer. I like the Eagles in that matchup.
And now you start a stretch of 3 straight December home games with the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, I like Philly in this matchup again. I'm interested to see with the quarterback situation what now I'm forgetting Daniel Jones is going to look like whenever he comes back from that Achilles injury. But I think this is Philly's game to win as well. I think offensively they've got the pieces to wear down this Indianapolis defense, and I think that they'll be able to just have their way. And I think Philly gets it done.
NFC West heavy here, finish to the season, because then it's the defending Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. This game also, though, in Philadelphia.
Yeah, this one's going to be a loss, and this one might be ugly. I mean, I cannot get the image of the Seattle Seahawks defense in the Super Bowl. I can't get it out of my head. And I think it'll give this offense nightmares. I think that the speed of this defense, the physicality, the ability for guys at all three levels to get to the quarterback and make Jalen Hurts' night frustrating, I think it's going to be overbearing. And I think this might be a 2-score loss.
2-score loss potentially at home against the Seahawks, and then that third and final of 3 straight home games against Houston.
Yeah, see, this is another one. I mean, it's like apples and oranges. You're talking about Seattle's defense versus Houston's, but this is just another iteration of it. Another defense that's so fast, so physical. They hunt in numbers. They pepper the runners. They're that team. You remember back, Chris Hassel, you remember back watching Friday Night Lights, the football movie, and Dallas Carter walked off the bus, and everybody was like, damn. We got to play them guys. Like that's the vibe you get. Just not even having to play against the Houston defense, but just watching them. Watching guys like Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, Kamari Lassiter, Derek Stingley, Jalen Petrie. I mean, they've got it at all 3 levels. And I will say offensively for Houston, I'm looking to see the old C.J. Stroud this year. I think he's coming back. He got a new fade. He's looking right. I like him. I like the Houston Texans in this matchup in Philly.
Okay, back-to-back home losses, and then it starts to get a little bit hairy here with the Eagles. I mean, 11 wins, you're pretty much guaranteed to get in. 10 wins, maybe not so much. You have 2 road games to finish the year, beginning in Santa Clara against San Francisco.
And I like San Fran in this matchup. Listen, Chris, I don't know if you've noticed the theme, but teams that have great defenses, they've got a chance against the Philadelphia Eagles. And although we saw a battered and bruised variation of the 49ers defense last year, you get Bosa back, you get Fred Warner back. Watch how this defense just magically gets better overnight and how they become a defense that we're going to start to talk about like Houston, like Seattle. And we know what Brock Purdy can do on the offensive side of the football. I don't think the Eagles can match up well with San Fran in this matchup.
So if this is how it plays out, they're sitting there at, 9-7 going into the final game and maybe needing to win that to get to the postseason. Do they win it at the Giants?
Yeah, well, let's just pretend like they do. They do need to win this game, and they know that. Nick Sirianni knows it. Jalen Hurts knows it. All the superstars on that team know it. They go out, they put up one of their best performances in the last game of the regular season to guarantee, or at least try to guarantee themselves a playoff spot, and I think they knock off the Giants again.
And if they do get in, do you see this team as a contender in the NFC?
Absolutely, because they've been there before and they've done it before. That's the thing. I mean, that's why I said what I said to start the segment, Chris. They've got all the pieces. They had all the pieces last year. A.J. Brown or not. When you look at the roster that they have, again, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Lane Johnson, the list goes on and on and on. Defensively, you've got Jalen Carter. You've got Zach. You have a lot of great players. They just didn't play well last season. But again, you got a team that's got championship pedigree. You get to the big dance, you've always got a shot.
You got to play the 3 teams with the 3 shortest odds to win the NFC because they have to play the NFC West, and the NFC West has the